The Oklahoma Sooners pick up a big win, 66-17 over the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. We'll have all our takeaways from an impressive performance on this post-game edition of Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and this post-game edition of Locked On Sooners is brought to you by LinkedIn. Get every new potential hire in your business faster and for free with LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Completely butchered that read. My apologies to LinkedIn, but just so excited to be talking about a win right after the fact, not having to wait till our typical recording schedule. Josh, the Oklahoma Sooners, man, rolling through non-conference play, beat Tulsa 66-17, and there were a lot of really impressive performances in the game. And I think you have to start with what Dillon Gabriel did at quarterback. He completed 90% of his passes for over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. So I went back to good old college sports reference and took a look at where this might stack up in Dillon Gabriel's game log as far as his career games go. The 421 passing yards were the 4th highest of his career. The 5 touchdowns were the 4th time that he had thrown for 5 or more touchdowns in a game. He has a 6 touchdown game in his career. But the 90% completion percentage, that is the highest completion percentage of his career. The second highest completion percentage of his career, Arkansas State in week 1. So Dillon Gabriel is just absolutely rolling right now.
Yeah, he's playing great football, and Oklahoma obviously can't do much better than what they did throughout the non-conference portion of the schedule. Whatever we were looking for, I mean, for the most part, yeah, we can find some things to get corrected, but for the most part for Oklahoma, given what its non-conference schedule is going to be, we wanted it to look about like this. Obviously, offensively, much better than it was a week ago versus SMU. You mentioned, I mean, Gabriel, 28 of 31, 420 yards, 5 touchdowns. So, yeah, he's fabulous. He's been great throughout this early portion of the season, and I just keep coming back to the command of Dillon Gabriel. Just feels like he knows what he's trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Even the one interception, if you want to nitpick it, I mean, my only nitpick is throwing a 50-50 ball to a guy that's 5'8". That's not usually in my game plan if I'm drawing up a play, but it was one of those play calls that you hoped to be able to get the cornerback to bite on a double move and get Gavin Freeman behind the defense, and it didn't work. That's probably the only complaint I have with Dillon Gabriel's game today. And again, it's nitpicking a little bit because he was otherwise masterful in this performance. And I think the thing that we wanted to see last week that we did see this week was the willingness to let his receivers go up and make a play on the football, whether it was Jaden Gibson picking up a big third and long conversion, or Andrel Anthony making plays down the field, or Nick Anderson, going up and getting the football. I mean, you want to rely upon your receivers. They've got an athletic group of guys that can go up and get the football and make a play. Sometimes you got to be willing to pull the trigger and let those guys make a play. And credit to Dillon Gabriel for doing that, and credit to the wide receivers for making that play. 3 receivers over 100 yards with Andrel Anthony, Jalil Farouk, and Nick Anderson. And I just want to, start with this. I mean, Jalil Farouk had a really, really rough start to the game. He had a 62-yard kickoff return, which he then fumbled. And then on Oklahoma's first offensive series of the game, has a false start penalty. And you're like, come on, bro. Like, get it together. Let's get in the game, get our heads in it. And then he catches a touchdown to end that first drive. So a really nice response from him. Had 6 receptions, over 120 yards receiving, and a touchdown. Anthony had 4 receptions, over 100 yards. Nick Anderson was the epitome of efficiency in this game. 3 receptions, over 100 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. A fantastic game for the redshirt freshman receiver.
Yeah, he was incredible. That would be among the positive takeaways for Oklahoma, is just that Nick Anderson went out there and made some plays. The touchdown that he caught from Arnold was perfect pass too. I mean, it was just an absolute beauty. But across the board, I mean, just offensively, Oklahoma was great in this contest. The Sooners is kind of crazy. It was the most points that they've scored in a true road game since that infamous road game down in Lubbock versus Texas Tech. Infamous, I say, for some, right, because of what happened, obviously, defensively that night against Patrick Mahomes and Texas Tech. But it was the most points they've scored in a true road game since that, and I guess the most since 1980 at Colorado when they scored 82. So Oklahoma did some amazing things offensively. They scored on 9 of their first 10 possessions, John. 9 of the 11 possessions in the game. So really just anything that you could be upset about a week ago, for the most part, it was corrected today. And then obviously trio of guys over 100 yards. If you thought it was Andrell Anthony, lock it up, throw away the key, Jalil Farouk these last couple of weeks, I think is reminding us, okay, yeah, no, I might be the top guy on this set of receivers for Oklahoma. And obviously Nick Anderson, again, was, I think, a really, really big sign going forward.
Well, and Drake Stoops as well. If we're talking receivers, he had 8 receptions, several for first downs, big time in the red zone, had 2 touchdown receptions as well in this game. He just continues to show you what an integral part of this offense that he is. Even if he's not stacking up big yardage games, he's kind of an extension of the running game in a little bit, where he's catching these short passes, picking up 5-6 yard chunks at a time. And then every once in a while, like we saw against Arkansas State, making big plays out of those short receptions. So all around, like a big time performance from the wide receiver group. I thought the offensive line in pass protection was pretty good. I thought they did a really, really good job letting Dillon Gabriel get comfortable. Never really felt like he was under duress a whole lot in this game, and was able to take time and get the ball down the field, or take time, go through his progressions. But also I feel like what Jeff Lebby was trying to do offensively helped that a little bit in getting the ball out of Gabriel's hands quickly.
No, that's right. Yeah. Good job by those guys, and schematically, some of it was schemed up to get it out of the hand quickly, but hey, they pass protected well. And obviously, I mean, when you end up with the type of day that Gabriel had, obviously a lot of things went well in that department for Oklahoma. What do we make of the run game?
It's a little bit concerning. I'm not going to lie. I think this is an area that Oklahoma's got to improve. I felt like coming into the year that it was going to be a strength of this team. We just haven't yet seen it fully unfold. No, they had a big yardage day against Arkansas State. I think they ran for 220 yards in that game, but even then it felt choppy, right? It felt like, okay, you'd get a 1 or 2 yard gain, then you'd pop for 8, or you'd get 0 to -1 yard, run, and then you'd pop for 15 or something like that. It never felt consistent at Arkansas State. That carried over to SMU, and that seems to be the trend that's formed through the first 3 games of the season. And I don't necessarily see that improving next week against Cincinnati, who's got one of the best defensive fronts. So I think it is a bit concerning. I think there's going to be an area where Oklahoma's got to get better. And especially if they want to contend and compete and be able to go on the road and beat a team like Cincinnati, go into the Red River Showdown and beat a team like Texas, they're going to have to figure out how to run the ball better.
The run game, like you said, I mean, I think that's the big thing. You nailed it, which is, hey, chunk plays are great. You love ripping off a 12, a 15, 20 yard plus run, but really you want it to be, okay, here's 3 yards there. There's 6 yards there. There's 5 yards here, right? I mean, you want it to just be consistently positive yardage, not the 1-0 gainers or, loss of yardage runs. You want to see it consistently be in that 3 to 5 and above range. And obviously, yeah, Oklahoma, I think on a more consistent basis could improve there.
There are going to be areas to improve throughout this season. And I think it's not necessarily a bad thing to have some things in this game not go perfect, because it creates teach tape. But you want to start seeing, like, the run game. You want to see the run game start to show signs of being consistent. And that's the thing that we haven't seen just yet out of the running game. Now, the passing game has been phenomenal. Running game's got to get a little bit better. We're going to talk about the defensive side of the football and what they accomplished against Tulsa. We'll have more takeaways about this game as well. First, let me talk to you about our friends over at LinkedIn. If you're looking to expand your small business, LinkedIn is the place to go. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. That's why you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Go to LinkedIn.com, add the purple hashtag hiring frame to your job description, LinkedIn profile, to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Josh, this was a game against a Tulsa team that hadn't looked great offensively through the first couple of games of the season, or at least last week against Washington, they didn't look great, but had some athletic players, especially at quarterback. That first quarter was absolute dominance for the Sooners. And really, aside from a couple drives in the second quarter, the Oklahoma Sooners defense had another really fantastic day against the Hurricane.
They did. And you love, obviously, the defensive touchdown. I thought Stutzman's celebration in the end zone was fantastic. But the fact that Oklahoma came away with 3 first quarter interceptions was pretty remarkable. That's the first time that's happened since the Florida game. So, I mean, obviously that's not very common, right? That you come away with, well, first of all, it's tough to come away with 3 interceptions, period. But to do it that quickly does not happen very often. So I do get the impression that just across the board collectively, what we were hoping, I'm not going to get too caught up yet. I need to see it versus Cincinnati. I will put 0 stock into the Iowa State game now after today. I didn't think I was going to be putting any stock into the Iowa State game, but now after today, I'm definitely putting 0 stock into that one. But let's see what happens versus Cincinnati. And yet I do think I feel pretty confident, again, not to fall into this trap, but the signs, the tea leaves appear to be there that, yes, this is a definitively, decidedly improved defense for Oklahoma.
Again, you go back to some of the areas where they were not great a year ago. Third down, 8 of 19. Tulsa converted fewer than 50% of their third downs today. Oklahoma finally got multiple sacks in a game. They ended up with 3, and then the 5 interceptions. That's just incredible. To me, that's showing athletic players making plays on the football, and you've got to be able to make those plays. If you want to be a winning team, you make those plays. And I think Brent Venables said it best in his post-game press conference. I think that was kind of the difference in Oklahoma winning only 6 games and potentially being even better. This was a team that had opportunities to create turnovers a year ago, just didn't capitalize on it. If they're able to do this consistently, it'll make them a much, much more dangerous defense. Danny Stutzman, being able to take the interception similar to the one he had against Iowa State last year, where he's just kind of sitting there right in the middle of the field, not really disguising his coverage. He's just there, and he makes a really nice play on the ball and then knows what to do with it when he has it in his hands, picking up the touchdown. So another phenomenal game from him. It was really cool to see Gentry Williams get the interception playing in his home city of Tulsa. And I think after being a little bit banged up last week and not being able to go and getting the opportunity to be a captain, go make a play, he does that, helps kind of turn the tide of that first set of series where Jalil Farouk fumbles the ball and Tulsa gets it back. And then Gentry Williams, takes it right back for the Oklahoma defense. So I thought that was really encouraging to see. Kendall Dolby, who came in and played for an injured Gentry Williams during the game, comes up with a big play of his own. I thought I saw Gentry Williams in and out of the game at different times. So I think it's probably just going to be something that they watch on the injury front. I don't know if it's necessarily going to keep him out for any length of time. And then you saw, Key Lawrence come up with another big play with another great turnover, just like he did a week ago. So I said it on Twitter, a lot of guys making plays, and that's really encouraging. You're not relying on just 1 or 2 guys to go out there and make a play for you on defense. You have a lot of players doing that. Jaron Kanik showing off the speed and the athleticism, creating a tackle for loss on a swing pass. out of the backfield where it looked like the running back had some space going towards the sideline and can't completely erase the space. So a lot of encouraging signs from the defense. Yes, the 2 drives where Tulsa scored touchdowns, Oklahoma was playing really, really soft zone coverage, and Tulsa was able to take advantage of it. And that was it. That's all they got. They got those 2 touchdowns. Makari Vickers gave up one where they highlighted it pretty good on the broadcast, where he was peeking into the backfield at the running back coming across into the flat and just completely let his guy go. I don't know if he was expecting, a safety help over the top or not, but it wasn't there. And it was a really easy touchdown. And then Reggie Pearson just got beat on an out and up. And that happens when you go one-on-one. That's the risk you're kind of taking. You don't want your defensive backs getting put in that position, but aggressive defenses sometimes are going to give up big plays. That's just kind of par for the course. You can look at any aggressive defense over the course of college football history. You'll lock up in man-to-man across the board. You go cover 0 like it was on the second touchdown, and that's just kind of the way it goes.
Jimmy says soft zone coverage, no pressure on the quarterback. I'd like to go back and rewatch it to have maybe more of an informed opinion. Just watching all of it in real time, it kind of felt to me almost as though just the way the game was going, it just kind of felt like Oklahoma collectively got sort of disinterested in those couple of drives. I don't, that's maybe even unfair to give Oklahoma that credit in a way, but it just, the complexion of the game kind of felt that way, that it's just like, it sort of felt like this is obviously going to be a rout at that point. They kind of just weren't paying attention to their keys for a couple of drives. And guess what? They got stung. And then the rest of it obviously was great. And they, had a bunch of turnovers, and really Tulsa couldn't do much of anything. So all in all, defensively, how could you not feel much better about where Oklahoma's at right now today than where we left 2022? It seems like, yes. Like Danny Stutzman, I've seen a bunch of the comments in here, and everybody's right commenting this to us. Danny Stutzman is playing like an All-American right now. I know that this is a day where he, picks off a pass and races it back, but that's not a play he's making a season ago. He's just, everything with him is quicker. It's more decided. It's more confident. Everything about him. And then just kind of, he sort of epitomizes, I think, what is going on with Oklahoma. We need more information, but it does feel like it's tracking that way.
I think so too. He's on this potential All-American trajectory. The Oklahoma defense is playing really, really well. Again, there are areas that have to continue to get better, but everything is looking positive. It's looking much improved from a year ago. Tackling's better. Now, there are a few more missed tackles, I feel like, today than maybe there were last week, but all in generally coverage is better, except for that second quarter where it seemed like they just kind of got away from playing more man and they went more, cover 2, more zone. And while the pressure's not better necessarily than maybe it was a year ago, the run defense, I feel like, is far better. They held Tulsa to just, what was it? 75 rushing yards, 1.6 yards per attempt. So that's really good.
Second time this season they've held somebody under the century mark, by the way. So yeah, no, they were good there.
Yeah. So there are definitely areas that they have to improve, and they've got to continue to get better. There's no doubt about that. I don't want to sit here and act like they are a perfect defense that's already ready to roll into Big 12 play. No, there are things that have to improve. And when you go play a team like Cincinnati with a quarterback like Emory Jones, who is an athletic guy, even if he's not the most gifted passer, he can beat you enough with his legs to make you respect his arm, that could create problems for you as a defense, which was a problem last year. You got to continue to show that you can handle playing athletic quarterbacks. You can handle quarterbacks that can get outside the pocket, which again was a bit of an issue a little bit today until the third, fourth quarter, when they started to really kind of get used to what they were seeing at quarterback there. So a lot of really, really positive things to take away from this game. Yeah, the running game's got to get better. The pass rush has to continue to improve, but otherwise, I have very few complaints about what Oklahoma put on the field today.
How about some final takeaways from the win, and then just a general reaction to what has happened today across college football? I know that as we're with you, it's live in Florida. They're about to upset Tennessee. So there's some things happening in progress, but some interesting developments across college football. But first, let me tell you, it's time to snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel. That's America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. And obviously, that's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So you love that. The app, it's super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, hey, there's no better time than now to get in on the action. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So which would you like first? Some around the landscape of college football takeaways, or some final thoughts on Oklahoma's final non-conference tilt?
Let's do some final thoughts on Oklahoma's non-conference, and then we can go into Big 12 stuff.
Well, I'll just maybe summarize some of what we've already discussed. Dillon Gabriel, largely sharp again, is very, very important. I think the fact that you had 3 different receivers top the century mark is also significant in this game, and probably the all 3 of those guys in different ways significant for Oklahoma. Andrell Anthony, I think, clearly is going to be one of the top options on this team. We've kind of said that week to week. Jalil Farouk now all of a sudden is climbing back up into that conversation of, hey, don't forget about me as maybe the #1 target on this Oklahoma football team. Obviously, he had 6 grabs today for $126. And then Nick Anderson. The conversation last week was, well, wait a second, where are Jaden Gibson and Nick Anderson? So Nick Anderson back triumphantly into the fold. No big deal. 3 grabs, 3 touchdowns today for him. And then on the defensive side of the football, the obvious would just be the flurry of turnovers was great to see. The Sooners need to be good in that department, and they seem to be making strides there. And then obviously, I just individually, Danny Stutzman, I think, catches your eye. Those are the big takeaways, I think, for me today. And there's probably 1,000 others, but those would be the big takeaways.
Yeah, I think run defense is looking good. I'm encouraged by that. I'm encouraged by offensive line pass protection. I think that's going to be really solid. If you've got to lean on Dillon Gabriel to win you a football game, I like that Dillon Gabriel is just really in the zone right now. I think he's playing really good football. You mentioned the wide receiver group. I think the diverse set of receivers that they have is going to benefit them as they go through Big 12 play. And I really do think that the cornerback play has been really good with Gentry Williams, Woody Washington on the outside. I thought they've been really, really good. Most of the issues you've had have come when Gentry Williams hasn't been in the game. Kenai Walker's been good. Kendall Dobie had a big play today, but I feel like Gentry Williams just right now, he's one of your best corners. And when he's dinged up, it kind of slows you down a little bit from a defensive perspective. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Oklahoma is able to continue to build around Gentry Williams in the coverage game. Peyton Bowen almost had himself an interception in the end zone just off his fingertips. So a lot to like defensively. Again, you got to improve the pass rush, got to improve the running game. And then you'll start to feel like, okay, this Oklahoma team is legit. They're going to be able to go and beat anybody on their schedule. But as we're seeing right now on the scoreboard and what's happened on the College Football Saturday, there are so many things that have transpired around college football today that make you have 100 million questions about any of these teams right now. Alabama struggling with the University of South Florida. Doesn't look like they have much of a quarterback. What does that say about Texas, who right now is in a 10-7 dogfight with Wyoming at the half? What's kind of stuck out to you so far through the first, we're still in the primetime games as we record, Josh. What's sticking out to you right now from College Football Saturday?
Well, I would say Tennessee Rocky Top's got some quarterback problems based on what I've watched, but that doesn't really necessarily apply to us and to Oklahoma until obviously, really next season. So in terms of what is going to impact OU, I would say again that the Big 12, I don't know what to make of it at times. There's certain teams that we think are really good. Didn't look that way today. Texas, so far, that, let's see what happens in the second half. But so far, less than impressive, coming off a big win, obviously, down at Bryant-Denny. And with what's going on with Alabama, all of a sudden you're like, well, wait a second, is this a bad Alabama football team finally for the first time in eons? So I don't know what to make of all of that just yet. What I can say is I think Kansas State is going to be susceptible in the defensive backfield. It's just like Theo Weiss and our man Burden and a couple other guys over and over again. They didn't have any answers in Columbia today. So Kansas State is not as far along or as good as maybe I thought that they were going to be. Will Howard was dinged up throughout that, so that wasn't great for them. Iowa State stinks. Okay, they're terrible. That is a very, very bad football team. Baylor, I don't think they're very good either. So there's some not very great in this conference right now, John.
There's not. And seeing what South Alabama is doing to Oklahoma State, that doesn't give you a lot of concern for later in the season. Now they can turn things around in the next month and a half, but I mean, they don't have a quarterback. And if you don't have a quarterback in today's game, you're going to have a really, really hard time winning football games. I think you hit it on the nail with Kansas State. Iowa State, they're just setting football back 100 years right now with the way that they're playing. And then Texas and maybe Wyoming is just a really, really good team. Remember, they beat Texas Tech in week 1. Again, Texas Tech was able to put up 30-something points on them, but the Cowboys from Wyoming, man, they're looking like a legit, lower tier team, but Texas should be doing better than this. Maybe they bought all the Texas's back hype and they're not really as good as they think they are.
South Alabama has been sort of a popular upset pick the last couple of weeks. And anyways, looking like a good upset special tonight over Oklahoma State. What do you make of that? South Alabama 26, Oklahoma State 7 right now.
I just think if there was ever this feels like the bottom of the barrel for Mike Gundy and his team to lose to South Alabama. If this score holds up, which I don't see any reason why that's the case. If this score holds up, then I got no faith in Oklahoma State this year. It looks like they could finish in the bottom half of the conference easily, if not the bottom 4. Baylor, it took an extensive rain delay for Baylor to finally put things together and hold off Long Island University. I mean, that was a game that they were struggling with at halftime. UCF is looking every bit as good as they have, all season. They had a strong win against Boise State last week. Now Villanova, that's not like a big time program, but they put up points. UCF did. And that's what it takes. I think Kansas State losing to Missouri. I don't think Missouri is as good as that. I think Kansas State kind of shot themselves in the foot with a lot of penalties, and that'll lose you games. If you're not going to be disciplined and you're going to take a bunch of penalties, that'll lose you football games. West Virginia, I mean, that's an intriguing team. They're up on Pitt right now in the backyard brawl. So there's a lot of really fascinating things that are completely turning around all the narratives that we've had so far about these teams. Interesting, just fascinating football to say the least.
That last score that you mentioned is interesting when you start getting into the comparative scoring, because obviously Cincinnati opens your eyes a little bit, right? With them being able to go and beat Pitt last week. But again, I mean, does anybody think Pitt's great? No, but it was, nice little power conference win. And yet if you are living in the universe or under the planet where West Virginia is not very good, then that's not a great reflection on Cincinnati's win. And oh, by the way, feel how you want to feel about this. Cincinnati's, flip-flopping around with Miami of Ohio right now, 24-21. So Cincinnati, who it's like, okay, look out. This could be a more difficult road game than we thought going in. Is it? I don't know.
I mean, it's going to be a tough place to play. That crowd is going to be fired up to host the Sooners, but is Cincinnati good? I don't know. I don't know if we know if any of these teams in the Big 12 are good right now. All I know is that Oklahoma is taking care of business, and they seem to be the one team of all of the Big 12 teams that's just simply taking care of business. And they've covered in each of their 3 games. say what you want about the way that they played SMU. They still won by 17 and they covered the spread. Good teams win, great teams cover. UCF, I mean, they struggled with Boise State. It was an 18-16 game. Cincinnati, they allowed, I think that was a closer game with Pitt. But yeah, I just don't know if anybody really knows what to think about anything right now. Kansas is still, putting up a bunch of points. They'll play the nightcap tonight against Nevada in the Pac-12 after dark situation. But the Big 12's, I mean, it's wide open. I think it's wide open, just like we thought it was to begin the season. I think there are teams right now that have played themselves out of contention, or at least teams that probably won't be in contention. But you look at Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, I think they're still going to be right in the thick of it when it comes down to the end of the season. Kansas State may very well be there. And, even though Texas Tech just got their first win of the season over Tarleton State, they don't have a conference loss yet. So they could very much still be a factor in the Big 12 title race.
So with this as the potential carryover to our next show, out of the non-conference portion, and as we peruse the rest of the nation, particularly in the Big 12, obviously here, we feel better about Oklahoma's standing as a legitimate Big 12 contender. I do, coming out of the non-conference portion. Now, I'm not ready to hang any plaques up for wins over Arkansas State, SMU, and Tulsa, but the fashion in which they did it versus Arkansas State and today versus Tulsa was pretty impressive. The fact that you got pressed a little bit versus SMU and then both, complimentary football from the offense, from the defense to go close that thing out. And then just looking at everything else that has happened. Okay, Texas, we thought coming out of last week, Texas, okay, well, now they backed it up. They're going to be the favorite of this league. But, okay, I mean, is Alabama just not very good? I feel stronger than ever now today that absolutely Oklahoma will be playing for a Big 12 championship. Now, are they going to win it? Okay, we'll see by the time that game rolls around. But at this point, I'm going to be surprised if Oklahoma's not playing for another Big 12 championship.
And after last week, I felt a little less confident in my Oklahoma beats Texas prediction in the Red River Showdown. Today, I feel a lot more confident in my Oklahoma beats Texas prediction in the Red River Showdown. Standing by it, living by it, but I'm feeling a lot better about it today, watching them struggle with Wyoming. I just think Oklahoma is doing a lot of really, really good things. They're not, I mean, they might have played with their food a little bit against SMU, but they definitely didn't do it today against Tulsa. They, had every reason to kind of sleepwalk into this game against a team that just got beat by a bunch by Washington. Mm-hmm. And they didn't. They jumped out to 28 points in the first quarter, had a bit of a sleepwalk through the second defensively, but they were still up big going into half, and then just ran away with the thing in the second half and just remembered all of a sudden, oh yeah, we got to play some defense and we got to go show that we are Oklahoma. So, to have in the non-conference play, to have a 73-point win, a 66-point win, and then to beat an SMU team that a lot of people think is going to be really good this year, to beat them by 17, I think it says a lot, and you can feel positively about this team. Now, it's going to be week to week. Every week, they've got to continue to go out and prove who they are every single week. And it starts next week with Cincinnati, and they'll take on the Bearcats for Fox Big Noon kickoff, 11 a.m. So that'll be a fun time for everybody up at Nightbird Stadium. We'll see how well they tailgate for them 11 a.m. kickoff. So that'll be fun. We're going to have so much more to say about this game and get you ready for Cincinnati and whatever else comes down the pipeline over the next few days on the Locked On Sooners podcast. Make sure you tune into the show wherever you get your podcasts for free and available on every platform and on YouTube. Hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Josh on Twitter at JoshOnRef. I'm at John9Williams. You can follow the show at Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much to everyone who's here for the live show in the chat. We appreciate you stopping by, hanging tough with us on a Saturday night, watching this great college football happen where Oklahoma State sucks and loses to Alabama, or South Alabama, sorry. I wonder if
the only good Alabama this season, I guess. South Alabama.
That's right. The best Alabama is South Alabama. We can't wait to talk to y'all next time. Thanks again for being here. We'll talk to you soon. Boomer Sooner.